sands of Texas, we move to the deep sands and the swamps of Florida. It's the Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Series. Behind me, the fastest four-wheeled ATV racers in the world, and they're going to attack the deep sand, the deep forest of Florida as they battle for the most prestigious championship in their sport. Jason Wigan and Rodney Tomlin are going to bring you the action all afternoon. We've got 2 hours of racing, and the best riders are going to duel for this coveted victory.
And speaking of best riders, right there is the best rider in the nation, 5 years running, Bill Balance, the defending 5-time Grand National Cross Country champion. And of course, there's lots of folks lined up on that starting line that are wanting to dethrone him in the worst way, including this guy right here, the number 6 of Brian Cook, who's been making some charges over the last couple of years, and also Brandon Balance, who has actually won in Florida a couple of years ago in Palatka in the swamp race when it was really, really rainy in the hurricane. And this guy right here, beating Bill Balance consistently late last year and already won the season opener. Let's see if he can win the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC as we are off and rolling now. And in the turn number 1, Bill Balance will grab the second hole shot in as many races in this 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. Let's take a look at that FMF Hole Shot Award and see how he did it. Back out front now, Bill Balance and Chris Borich running 1 and 2 as the Killer Bees kick off the early part of this 2005 Orange Crush GNCC in control. Who's back in third? Let's find out. Couldn't see in the dust there, but we're at mile marker number 3 now, and they're starting to separate, and it looks like Greg True, Florida's own, has taken over 3rd place. 4th place, Brandon Balance. 5th place, William Yoakley aboard the number 2. I believe that is Jinx aboard the number 7, running in the number 6 spot. And again, as you look back through the wooded sections here, you can see that the dust is flying through the trees and all around the property here around Lake Winona and De Leon Springs, Florida. So you know these riders are having to go slow, especially on this first lap of racing, until some of maybe this drier dirt on top has been blown off and we can reach some of that more moist sand underneath the crust that is laying on top of the ground here in De Leon Springs at Lake Winona. And of course, as we move ahead to mile marker 6.5, this is the Twin Peaks region of the race course. These riders have 2 options. They can go straight ahead there at that sandy wall or go left around the horn. And it looks like that these riders on the first lap anyway are going to play it safe and go left a long way around. And they're all following suit, so no one is actually gaining any advantages through this section of the race course. That wall looks pretty tough, and we had William Yoakley take a look at it yesterday with our Suzuki Pro Rider Tip of the Week.
Down here in Florida, William, we're faced with a lot of things, and most of that is sand. And we also throw in a hill or two occasionally, and sand hill can be something really tough to negotiate. How do you go about that?
Well, Rodney, a sand hill is kind of tricky because there's not many sand hills. We're always used to the hard pack. The way I usually encounter that is to come up on it and pretty cautious, but with pretty good speed. And I usually try to stay in 2nd or 3rd gear and just pretty much keep my momentum going, wheel speed going pretty good. And I never let it bog, or I don't want to spin too much. I don't want to sink. I like to keep my momentum rolling good. And going over the backside of a hill or something, you got to be cautious as well, because you never know with the sand, it's going to eat out. There's always a lot of whoops and stuff, so you never want to wipe out for not knowing what's on the other side, and you always want to keep good momentum, keeps flowing.
Back out front now, and Bill Balance continuing to lead here in Florida, and Chris Borich running in the number 2 spot. It looks like these 2 riders are starting to stretch out a little bit of a lead over the rest of the pack. Greg True back in 3rd, Brandon Balance 4th. Make that 3rd now for Brandon Balance as he makes the pass on True. We saw it happen right there. Now let's check that Suzuki leaderboard at near the halfway point of lap number 1. Bill Balance out front. It is Chris Borich running 2nd, Brandon Balance in 3rd, Matt Smiley in 4th, and Chris Jinks rounds out your top 5. As we check check back through 6th through 10th now. William Yoakley 6th, Michael Houston running 7th, Rob Zimmerman 8th, 9th place Tom Barrett, and 10th place Santo DeRisi, our Suzuki leaderboard at the halfway point of lap number 1. As you can see there, already changes taking place in our position board, and we'll check in with that again here in the next few moments and see how things are starting to shape up there as we look now and see that things are getting quite dusty once again in those wooded sections, making visibility very limited. You better hope that your Scott goggles are working today and giving you that clear view that you always look for. There's your leader once again, Bill Balance, looking for a rough track, and we talked to him earlier this morning.
Yeah, we was kind of expecting this, and we're hoping that it gets pretty hot today. You know, we've been down here for a week now training in Florida and riding in the sand whoops. We've got the Yamaha working just awesome out there in the sand, and we're looking for the hottest temperatures we can get and the deepest whoops we can find, and I believe we're really ready. The Yamaha's working awesome. I feel good. Got to do a lot of training since Texas. We had a really close race there with Chris, and you know, I wasn't quite ready for that race, being I hurt my knee and everything before the round, but I've got to do a lot of riding since then, and I really feel a lot better physically and ready for a good race.
And an air of confidence from the champ, Bill Balance, and with good reason, not only before the race, but during the race as well, as he seems to be in control of the situation out there. Kid Quad Chris Boards running in the number 2 spot, well within striking distance. I'm sure this battle is far from over as we approach that Yamaha spectator section of the race course for the first time. This is the Yamaha Gator Pit. 3 trees laid down with sand piled up on top as an added obstacle on our race course, and these riders are easing their way through here on lap number 1. There was Smiley back in the number 4 spot. Looks like the number 7 of Chris Jinks rounds out your top 5 as we check back to 6th place now. That is the number 11 of Michael Houston now running in the number 6 spot as we near the completion of lap number 1. There's Rob Zimmerman, the number 30 machine, running back in the 8th place position as he approaches the Yamaha Gator Pit now, and he has got company back there also. I believe that Santo DeRisi and several other of the boys are looking for a stronger position right now as they make their way through the Yamaha Gator Pit right now as well. And of course, a little further back, there's more of our pro riders. Let's see how many of these guys are going to try to double up right now. Not a one have actually gone for a double through this section of the race course, and you think that they would, but nonetheless, none of them have. The last few turns of this near 11-mile race course, and of course, Bill Balance in control at the end of lap number 1. And of course, back in the number 2 spot is going to be that number 3 of Chris Borich. 3rd spot, Brandon Balance. And 4th place, Matt Smiley. And speaking of Matt Smiley, we talked to him earlier today about what he expected for the race today.
This track's going to get real whooped out today. With the morning class running first, it's going to be bad right from the start, and it's only going to get worse. So, you know, it's going to show whose machine's working the best and who's in the best shape, and real confident with Polaris Predator and myself.
Well, an air of confidence there with Matt Smiley, as there was with Bill Balance as well, with good reason. He's running a very strong 4th place position. Check this out right here. Last turn before the finish line on flat ground, the guy's stuck. He's not got very much travel out there as far as suspension goes, and that's obvious as the ruts eat out. He has bottomed out on that skid plate and cannot make it around that last turn. And if it's that bad here at the last turn, you got to wonder what the rest of the racetrack is starting to shape up like, and or will shape up like as this race wears on. Here as we're now in lap number 2 near mile marker number 1 in the pit section, and Bill Balance with the lead, and right on his rear wheel once again Chris Borich in that number 2 spot. Brandon Balance back in 3rd, keeping him extremely honest, and a change for 4th place as it looks like the number 2 of William Yoakley has moved up a couple of spots there and taken over Smiley's spot. There's the number 11 of Michael Houston now running in 5th as we've had some major changes over the last mile of racing there. As we check back out front once again with our leaders in lap number 1, this was a whoop field, but not nearly as deep a whoops as this. And keep an eye on this section as the race wears on. Expect that section to get really rough as the day goes on. And of course, Brandon Balance still holding back in the number 3 spot, and he has got a great seat there for that battle up front between his brother Brandon his brother Bill and Chris Borch, as those two are going at it wheel to wheel. And he wants to be a part of that battle, as does Matt Smiley, who has regained the number 4 spot. And that guy right there, William Yoakley's dropped back off to a 5th place position over the last couple of miles of racing. Now checking in with the number 11 of Michael Houston, and Houston running in 6th, another strong position for him, and a good strong ride here through the first lap and a half or so, or near lap and a half of racing. As we check back with our Suzuki leaderboard, Chris Borch out front as he has taken over the lead now from Bill Balance. Brandon Balance running 3rd, Matt Smiley in 4th, and Chris Jinks back in 5th. But the big story right now is the fact that Chris Borch has taken over the lead now, and Bill Balance runs in the number 2 spot. And it looks like things are starting to heat up for 3rd place now, as Matt Smiley is now charging hard on that number 9, the 3rd place rider, Brandon Balance. And there's William Yoakley, not far off the pace of either of these riders who are running in the top 4 right now. Keep an eye out for him. Keep an eye out for this guy also, the number 7 of Chris Jinks. Going to be a force to be reckoned with, if not today. At some point through this season, this kid's going to break loose, and he is going to be a contender for a win and not only a podium finish. And look for a lot of those coming out of him. And also this guy right here, only a 2-year pro, Michael Houston, aboard that number 11 machine. Back out at the Twin Peaks section now, the 6.5-mile marker, Chris Borch with the lead. Is Borch going to go for that sandy uphill now, that wall of sand virtually that he will be faced with, and try to shave some time off his lap time, or will he go the long way around? He goes the long way around, and that is obviously going to add about 3, 4, maybe even 5 seconds on his time there, as Bill Balance, who's about 10 seconds down right now, will make up those 5 seconds as he goes straight up the wall there, as does Brandon, as does Matt Smiley, and as will the number 2 of William Yoakley, who actually got a chance to look at this section of the race course in our Suzuki Pro Tip of the week there a little bit earlier. But nonetheless, it hasn't played in his advantage as of yet, as he's still running in 5th. Wow! Looked like Jinks almost went over the bars there, as he got a little bit too much oomph over that first peak there at Twin Peaks. And nearly, again, went over the handlebars, but regains composure and straight up the wall, as he'll lose as much time on this lap as possible through this section of the race course. Again, a legal move there, a section that can come to bite you at some point in the race, I'm sure, or it can come to help you. And these riders right now, it is helping out quite a bit, as they are all electing to go straight ahead and go for it right now. Over Twin Peaks once again, more of our pro riders. This looks like maybe Michael Houston, and Houston, over the course of the last 3 miles or so, has lost several positions now. Tough break for him. Back out onto the race trail itself, and Chris Borch continues to hold on to the lead. Don't see a lot of dust kicking up now. There is some dust back there. As more riders come through, it's going to get dustier and dustier and dustier. But right now, if you're one of the top 3, you're doing okay. We had a chance to talk with Chris Borch there earlier about how things are shaping up for him in today's race.
Nothing really. Just go out there, have fun, and basically hang on. It's gonna be a long day today. Whoops are probably gonna be waist high by the end here. So looking for a good run today.
Chris Jinks has gained a spot on William Yoakley now, and is now a part of the top 5 over the course of the last 3 miles of racing or so. So some big changes taking place there, as William Yoakley has dropped off actually to a 7th place position. Houston runs in 6th, DeRisi up to 8th, Brian Cook in 9th now, and Andrus Lagston rounds out the top 10 on our Suzuki leaderboard at about the halfway point, or just past the halfway point of this second lap of racing. There we've seen Yoakley make his way by just moments ago. Back out into one of our high-speed sections of the race course, Chris Borch on the gas, showing why he is out front. And there you can see the dust kicking up as the sun is beating down on this section of the race course and causing lots of dust to fly up. There's Bill Balance, and Balance seeming not to attack this section of the race course as he did a couple of laps ago. Brandon Balance seems to be a little more on the attack right now than Bill, and so does Matt Smiley. Checking back to 5th place now, the number 7 machine of Chris Jinks, closing in that much more on our top 4 riders. It looks like Jinks is on a mission there as he gets a little bit sideways through that section. You can see just exactly how rough it is. The camera not doing it really any justice as to how rough it actually is. William Yoakley will also master his way through this whoop section with a little bit of a stutter at the beginning, but back on the gas now as he is trying to reel in those top 5 guys from that 7th place position once again. Back in 8th place, Santo DeRisi aboard the number 16. He's got company back there, and it's the number 6 of Brian Cook that's keeping him honest in the race here in the sands of Florida in our Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC. It's round number 2 of America Series, the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championships, coming from Lake Winona, Florida, located in De Leon Springs. A beautiful place to come visit, a beautiful place to come race, and only 15, or actually about 30 minutes, I guess, if you drive a normal speed limit from Daytona's Bike Week festivities. Back out front, we check in with our leader, Chris Borich, and it appears that he once again is putting distance between himself in that 2nd place position, the number 1 of Bill Balance. Balance is being pressured still by the number 9 of Brandon Balance, his brother, a part of that Balance racing team. And there we get another beautiful view of Lake Winona. Looks like maybe Chris Jinks has taken over the number 4 spot, as something has happened to Matt Smiley now over the course of the last mile or so of racing. Maybe Smiley will have to dig deep and charge hard once again, as he is known for doing that and coming from back in the pack. A little further back in the pack there, the number 16 of DeRisi in 8th, and the number 6 of Brian Cook still battling it out for that number 8 spot. Out into one of our high-speed sections of the race course, and it is Chris Borich with a phenomenal lead now, as we still see no one in sight in that number 2 position, as the Balance boys battling it out back there for 2nd place. And it looks like Bill continues to hang on to the number 2 spot, with Brandon Balance running back in 3rd. And of course, as we check back to that number 4 spot, that is Matt Smiley back in control of the number 4 position, and it looks like maybe Chris Jinks dropping back off to a 5th place position now. As we check back ahead once again, it's still the brothers Balance going at it. 1 and 2 there for actually 2 and 3 there for 2nd and 3rd position. Again, Smiley with the best seat in the house on that one, hoping to capitalize on any of their mistakes. In that high-speed section, once again, there's your 5th place ride, the number 7 of Chris Jinks, as he finds a smooth line down the inside of the race course, and the dust flies as he makes his way toward this section right here, the Yamaha Gator Pit section, where our leaders are right now. Chris Borich charging hard. Is he going to try to double up this time around? I know he's got the fan support behind him, but regardless of whether he's got the fan support or not, he's not going to give it a try this time around anyway. Let's see if the Balance boys are going to give it a try, if they'll attack it, or are they going to roll? Well, they're going to roll as well. All the riders trying to use their head do not want to take themselves out of the race in this section of the race course. They've watched and eyeballed this section of the racetrack the last day or so, watched it in the race this morning, looked at it yesterday before practice, and of course they just can't figure out what it's going to do as the day wears on, so no one wants to take any chances. That guy right there, though, Chris Jinks, attacks it a lot harder than any other rider has out there so far today. And check this out, moving up now into a number 6 position, 2nd time through the Yamaha Gator Pit, gaining 4 spots there in the last couple of miles, is Michael Houston. Out front now with our Yamaha Rhino Cam. And this is with our leader, Chris Borich. Borich, again, with a fairly comfortable lead out there, and you can see no one in sight behind him as he motors his way through this high-speed section of the race course. A lot of thickets through this section. If you get off the course, you could cause yourself some problems quickly, and that's the way it goes through most of this race course. And any race course you race in Florida, you get into these thickets, these palmetto thickets and so forth, you think not a whole lot about it, but if one of those palmettos reaches out and grabs you, you're going to be thinking about it long and hard, and quite possibly from the ground. Yamaha Rhino Cam back to 7th place now with William Yoakley, as we take a look at the Yamaha Rhino Cam perspective once again. And again, Yoakley, who has been riding probably some of the fastest times out there, but just not able to put them together section by section. He keeps finding himself in trouble and losing several positions and having to make up a lot of ground. He's been able to do it, but you got to wonder, if he was not making those mistakes, could he be up there battling with the leaders, or could he be up there battling with Chris Borich for that number 1 spot right now? Well, we head back to near the 11-mile marker. This is probably more like the 10.5-mile marker now, as we are working our way toward the end of lap number 2. And Chris Borich, once again, still holding on to a huge lead here as we make our way through this amateur pit section of the race course. The amateurs pit right beside the race course, and there you see some of those pit areas for those amateur riders. None of them in just yet, but I'm sure as the day wears on, we'll have an opportunity to see a lot of folks out there. There's the brothers balance once again. Still Bill and Brandon running second and third and back and forth. Still the number 4 of Matt Smiley on that Team Safari Polaris. Over at the finish line region now, Chris Borch already checked in for the second lap complete. There's Bill Balance. Looked like almost held up by some lap riders there that are stuck on the flat ground once again. As you can tell, doesn't take much to get you stuck out here. Brandon Balance third, fourth place to number 4 of Matt Smiley as he holds steady once again through 2 laps of racing. Back at the 1 mile marker, there's the number 3 of Chris Borch. He's in for a pit stop. Chris Borch going to get some gas. He's going to get a fresh pair of goggles and I'm sure a quick drink as well. And I think he may be pitting a lap before the rest of the riders. Let's check in with his father Joe to find out what the strategy is.
My plan must be going good for Chris. He's pulling out a lead and getting away from them guys.
Great, thank you. Best of luck.
Obviously, Chris felt that would be the best opportunity for him to pit. Let's see if Balance will pit. No, Balances will not pit, and neither will Smiley. Let's check in with Jimmy Duff to find out what the Balance strategy is.
Well, the way all these whoops and stuff is out here in the Florida race, you got to conserve energy all day long. It's a long race, and by the 5th lap, whoever's riding fast right now, it may take a toll. So we'll see how it ends up on the 5th lap.
Great.
Well, it looks like there that maybe the Yamaha pits that think that Chris Borch is going to wear himself out as hard as he is charging early on here in the race. And, of course, a lot of other riders charging hard like this Mickey Dunlap 4-stroke tech team. Let's check in with Mickey Dunlap and find out how things are going there.
How's the team doing?
Team's doing great. The riders are pacing themselves. It's a long race. They're running 6th, 7th, and 8th right now. Chris Jinks running 6th, Michael Houston 7th, and Brian Cook 8th. They're just hanging in there and just trying to keep everything going good for the day.
And, of course, that Mickey Dunlap 4-stroke tech team has really come a long way in the last couple of years, and nobody's feeling it more today than this guy right here, William Yoakley. And Yoakley is in for gas stop and looks like a glove change, a single glove change. I don't see a second glove over there right now, so Yoakley is changing only 1 glove right now, and you got to wonder what's going on right there. He doesn't appear to be in too much of a hurry right now, so let's hurry on down and check in with the pits with his dad to find out exactly what is going on with William Yoakley.
Quick, and he changed his glove. His hand was really bothering him and having a problem with the throttle, so I'm not exactly sure. Maybe get it straightened out, but it was, he is having a problem with it. That's all I know.
Could be sand in the glove, could be sweaty gloves, could be a number of reasons why William Yoakley has to change that glove as we check the leaderboard. Brandon Balance has taken over the lead. Check this out. Chris Borch running 2nd. Bill Balance back in the number 3 spot. It's Smiley in 4th and Chris Jinks in the number 5 spot as we take a look at that Suzuki leaderboard. But Brandon Balance is out front. Chris Borch running in the number 2 spot. And obviously Borch got slowed down quite a bit on that pit stop. And the momentum was on the side of it looked like maybe the Balance boys. And Brandon Balance takes over the lead now as we check our leaderboard 6th through 10th. Now William Yoakley in 6th, 7th place Michael Houston, Santo DeRisi in 8th, Anders Lagston's 9th, and Todd Nippenberg rounds out your top 10 here on lap number 3 now as our riders are making their way through these tight woods, these open field sections, and dusty areas no matter where you are. There's a check-in once again with the number 7 of Chris Jinks. Number 11 of Michael Houston appears to be closing some ground there and making up quite a bit of it out there. And at this pace, he might be a challenger for a top 5 position before races end as well. But look at that long section of whoops, and you can see Chris Borch now doubling up through this section, which was a lot smoother 2 laps ago. Lap by lap, it's gotten rougher and rougher, and Chris Borch is on the gas, doubling all the way down through that section aboard the number 3 as he has regained the number 1 spot away from Brandon Balance, who had gotten out into the lead. And you can see the brothers Balance once again are battling it out right now, and of course, right there's William Yoakley. We had a chance to talk with William Yoakley, who's up to 5th place now, earlier today about today's race.
There's several tough competitors out there. A lot of them everybody's almost equally as skilled, and everybody's hungry for that number 1 plate. And but I think I'm going to go out there and just play it smart the first half of the race and see what I got there at the end, and just turn it on and just try to bring home another podium finish for some more solid points.
Well, he may be playing it smart, but smart things are not happening for William Yoakley, as we've seen him bouncing around quite a bit through that top 10 as far back as 7th place at one point. He's up to 5th spot now and trying to reel in the leaders right now, it looks like. And I'm sure that he has figured out what is going on now. He's got that glove change, so hopefully things are going to smooth over and work out more in his favor now here in this last half of this race. And of course we're checking back in with more of our riders making their way down through this long whoop field, and there is the number 14 machine of Andy Lagston's out of Baltimore, Maryland, a 10-year pro. And there's Balance once again. Nope, I thought Brandon had regained the lead again away from Chris Borch, but not able to do it as Borch holds on to the lead over Brandon Balance. Bill Balance back in 3rd. It looks like Bill is actually losing some ground to our front riders out there of his brother Brandon and Chris, the guy who beat him in Texas only a couple of weeks ago. More riders checking through the field, and there we have Brandon Balance out front aboard the number 9 machine as we have another position change. That's the second time this lap. I believe that Brandon Balance has been out front. Chris Borch in 2nd. 3rd place is Bill Balance. 4th place, the number 4, Matt Smiley, and back up to 5th place, running strong now, the number 2 of William Yoakley. There's the number 11 of Michael Houston, who's gotten off to a strong start this season, and another rider that's gotten off to a strong start this season, Santo Derisi, whom we talked with earlier this morning about today's race.
Looking a little bit better for you. Yeah, you know, we did a lot of testing over the winter, got the bike dialed in perfect, and everything's been working real good, well, and we got a lot of good sponsors this year, and, you know, it's just everything's been clicking so far.
What do you expect out of today's race?
You know, I feel like I should be able to get on the podium. You know, I was real close at Texas, and, you know, I feel pretty good. And we've been down here doing some testing, and the bike's working good in the sand, so I should be there.
And Santo Derisi should be there. I believe that because we know that Santo is really dedicated to Grand National Cross Country Racing, and of course he's going to prove it here in the 2005 season, all throughout the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series, a 13-round race. This is round number 2, the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC, our first visit to Lake Winona, Florida, here in De Leon Springs, and of course only a few short miles once again from Daytona, and the Bike Week activities, a perfect biker's vacation to come down here and check out the off-road stuff and also be this close to the sandy beaches of Florida. Back out here on the race course, as you can see, things are really starting to set in a groove for most of our riders out there, as it looks like maybe Jinx and Yoakley bouncing back and forth in that number 5 position still as they continue to jockey. One of these riders wants that top 5. Actually, both of those riders want that 5th place position, but only one of them is going to be able to walk away with it unless something happens and they're able to work a little farther up into the top 5 and dethrone a couple of these other guys. And at the pace that Bill Balance is setting right now, you got to wonder if he's going to be able to hang on to a top 3 ride. But we know the next man in line for that is the number 4 of Matt Smiley. This guy right here, Santo Derisi, would like to be in line for that, but he's got a long road to hoe as he's lost a little bit of time on this last lap of racing, and of course just keeping it up, Santo is going to be a threat. Maybe not in the sands of Florida today, but when we get down to North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, and areas like that, Santo Derisi is going to be a part of a front of our pack here at the GNCCs. Borch out front, and there is the number 9 of Brandon Balance back in the number 2 spot. No, it's not. The number 9 of Brandon Balance continuing to lead the race here in Florida with Chris Borch running in the number 2 spot, and look at the dust they're kicking up. You see now 3rd place rider making his way out of that dust field, and that is Bill Balance. And again, Bill Balance not seeing, wow, it looks like Bill is way out of control of that machine right now. You got to wonder if it's him or the machine that he's having problems with here today, because under normal circumstances and with the interview we had with Bill earlier today, he should be at top of that battle right now that is being waged for that number 1 spot, and he is losing ground to it as we speak. Back out a little further on the race course now, and of course, check this out. Brandon Balance with the lead. Chris Borch pulls up side by side with him, looks over and gives him a thumbs up. You got to wonder what that's all about. Couldn't make the pass, but he gave him a thumbs up. I guess it's like good racing, Brandon. Glad to have you up front with us in the battle for the win. And, of course, we'll see if Brandon's going to be able to take it all the way home, or if Chris Borch is going to be able to hang all the way with Brandon Balance. We know Brandon Balance can win in Florida. He proved himself at the Hurricane GNCC 2 years ago. Back in the number 5 spot there, we see the number 7 of Chris Jinks as he is on the gas trying to chase down Matt Smiley, the number 4 rider we seen going through there just a few moments ago. Now out front with our leaders again at the Yamaha spectator area called the Gator Pit. And the number 9 of Balance will ease his way through this section of the race course once more, as does the number 3 of Chris Borch. Neither one of these riders, again, wanting to make any mistakes whatsoever, as they want to hold as much of an advantage over the rest of the field as possible. Bill Balance will ease his way through it. It looks like his suspension is not working so well, so that might be the problem that Bill Balance is faced with today. Again, we know it's got to be something, either that knee or something's wrong with the bike. Not working, nothing like what the suspension of Matt Smiley's is. Now, of course, Smiley stalls it out there, but gets it refired back up, but the suspension is working. Check this out. Battle for 5th place. Yoakley going for it now as he gets around the number 7 of Chris Jinks right there in front of the Yamaha spectator area called the Yamaha Gator Pit. Now we're on board with the Yamaha Rhino Cam and our leader, Chris Borch. Once again, actually make that 2nd place rider, Chris Borch. And our leader, the number 9 of Brandon Balance, as this two-way battle now makes its way toward the finish line region. And Chris Borch finds himself behind his nemesis brother, Brandon. But he's already given him the thumbs up, so obviously he's happy and he's comfortable with racing with him out there. And that quite possibly could be exactly what that was all about. I'm comfortable with this pace. If you are, let's go with it. And that's exactly what they're doing. As you can see, they're approaching lap traffic now. And Brandon, at the near 11-mile marker, or near the end of this race course, is trying to get through some of this lap traffic, and as is Chris Borch. But right now, this could play in a big favor for, of course, none other than Chris Borch, with these lapped riders coming up on this section of the race course near the finish line region. A lot of weaving in and out there around those turns, and as we've seen in the two previous laps, riders actually getting stuck on flat ground, and if that's the case, one of these riders gets stuck in front of our lead rider, Brandon Balance, then Chris Borch could obviously capitalize and take the lead. But that does not appear to be the case. We got a lapped rider down off the side of the track, but he stalled out, but not going to slow our progress of our leaders down as the 2-lap board is out. 3 laps down, 2 to go now here in the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC. And Brandon Balance is pulling over to the side. Looks like he's doing something with his goggles. And Chris Borch will regain the lead now. Borch back out front, Brandon Balance in 2nd. I'm sure that if Bill Balance saw that take place, he would obviously be scratching his head wondering, what did you just do, little brother? Smiley will check in now with the 4th place position. Yoakley in the number 5 spot as he got around the number 7 of Chris Jinks only about a mile and a half ago before this finish line region. Speaking of Jinks, there he is having a rough way to go. It looks like he is way out of rhythm now on that number 7 machine, just trying to regain composure and regain some lost ground. It looks like maybe the wind may be knocked out of his sails at this point, starting to tire here late in the race with 2 laps to go. There's Michael Houston, number 11 machine, up to a 7th place position, was running 10th back on lap number 1. Santo DeRisi in the 8th place position now, aboard the number 16 machine, as he checks through and sees the 2-lap board, signifying only 2 laps of racing to go. Well, we told you that Chris Borch had taken over the lead as Brandon Balance kind of pulled off to the side, adjusting his goggles. Now we head down pit row, and Chris Borch pitted a lap ago. Balance did not, so they're going to have to pit this time around and risk running out of gas. And there comes Bill Balance. He will pit as well. Brandon Balance getting a fresh pair of goggles, some fresh water, and he is off and back in the hunt, trying to reel in Chris Borch. It's going to be tough. They lost several seconds there. Billy Balance now back into it. He is kind of almost looked like he is shaking his head, but not shaking his head, as he looks like he is almost disgusted with something out there, whether it's himself or the machine. Something not right with Bill Balance. There's the number 4 of Matt Smiley in for his pit stop now on the number 4 Polaris from Kunkletown, Pennsylvania. Team Safari is the name of that team, and they're backed by Factory Polaris, one of the new factory teams here in 2005. There's 5th place ride, number 2, William Yoakley. As we told you, he made that pass over in the Yamaha Gator pit on that Suzuki, and he's got the hammer down, trying to reel in the front 4. Back there, 6th place ride, the number 7 of Chris Jinks. Jinks is going to take a shot of gas now, a quick splash of water down the back as these sunny skies and 80-degree temperatures may be starting to take their toll on these riders. A lot of them from the Northeast, not used to the heat that they are faced with here today. There's Santo DeRisi running what looks to be a 7th place position now. So Santo has gained a spot now, it looks like, aboard that number 16 machine. And it looks like the number 14 machine of Andy Lagston's also gaining a spot there somehow, and will stop for a pit stop, and I think that'll put him out now in the 8th place position. And we're getting reports now that Brian Cook is headed to the pits. Let's go down with Jason Wygant and find out exactly what's going on.
Down here, Brian Cook of the 4-stroke tech team. What happened out there, Brian?
It was just soaked up with Santo DeRisi. Me and him, we were out a lot together around the house, and feeling pretty comfortable. I guess felt like we had a pretty good pace going. We were coming up through and come through a little section over there, and just happened to bike just jumped up out of the ruts and just skimmed a tree. And when it did, it twisted the steering seal. I don't know if it's why it did it. I don't know. Didn't hit it nowhere near hard enough to do that, but that's the way it goes sometimes, I guess.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, it just barely did twist the bars a little bit, so I don't know.
Get back out there and get it, Brian.
All right, we'll regroup, get them in Georgia next weekend. All
All right, it's been a wild race, just as predicted here at the Orange Crush, and a lot of it has come down to this very straightaway right here, the pit stops. An early pit race strategy by the Boards team has put them out front, and had enough of a lead built that when they pit later, they were still able to hold on to the lead. The Balance boys are chasing, but the only hope they have left is that the track gets rougher and the lap traffic gets thicker, and even Boards' lead won't hold up in the last lap. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see who can take the checkered flag here at the Orange Crush. Well, we always say we come to Florida, it's the roughest track of the year, and it's early in the season, too. And some riders, they don't get the calluses built up on their hands. Stephanie Partner, women's champ. Ouch, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it's not very friendly right now.
How'd the race go for you?
Me and Tracy kind of got tangled up in the 3rd turn, and I just went out there and rode the race. It was really dusty, and of course, you know, you're in Florida and there's sand whoops. That's all there is, sand whoops. So all you can do is pretty much ride a steady pace and don't make the first lap hard out. Just take a steady pace the whole race, and that's pretty much what I did, and it come in my favor. So.
Well, that's cool, but what about the injury here? You're going to get your hands healed up enough to race in Georgia just a few days from now?
I hope so. Someone told me I need Neosporin 5 times a day, and they'll be healed up in 4 days, so I'm hoping they're right.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
All I've got to say about that is ouch. That looks like that hurts, and that, again, some of the problems that you're faced with early in the season, especially down here in Florida. And Stephanie Parton falling victim to the sands of Florida from this early morning race. This guy right here, though, is not fallen victim as of yet. Chris Borich out front, Brandon Balance in 2nd, Bill Balance still holds on the 3rd, Matt Smiley in 4th, and again, William Yoakley in 5th as we check that Suzuki leaderboard now. There comes Brandon Balance down that big field of whoops that was a lot smoother earlier today. Also, this section of the race course has gotten kind of whooped out as well, and making these riders have to choose up different lines. As you see, Balances go on the outside, both of them do. Brandon to the inside, Bill to the outside, trying to ride as smooth a line as possible. Whoa, did you see that? Matt Smiley getting about pitched off the machine there, as it looks like he was riding a bucking bronco down through that section, and he's going to have to try to find his rhythm a little better next time through that section of the race course here at the Orange Crush GNCC. And again, check it out. There goes William Yoakley. He is doubling up through this section as well as we look at that Suzuki leaderboard. 6th through 10th now. Michael Houston running 6th. Chris Jinks has dropped off to 7th. Parisi in 8th. Lagston's in 9th, and Todd Nippenberg rounds out the top 10 now as we check that Suzuki leaderboard here late in the race. And these riders, again, stretching out quite a bit as far as positions are concerned. And I believe lap or traffic is probably to blame for that as much as lap or track conditions are to blame for that. There's the number 16 of Santo Derisi, that 9th place rider that is riding the outside edge of these whoops as well, trying to conserve as much energy as possible in this mad dash and this last 2 laps of racing action that we are bearing witness to right now. There once again is that number 14 machine. And again, that's Andy Lagston. Lagston started out in 13th. Lap number 1, lap number 2, and 10th. Lap number 3, he was in 9th place. He's running 9th place right now and running a very solid 9th place position as we check back in once with our lead riders once again. And there we see that one of the lap riders pulling over and letting Brandon Balance go by. You got to wonder if they'll be as courteous to this guy right here, the number 1 of Bill Balance, and you would think so. He does have the number 1, and most of the guys are going to say, hey, this guy needs on by. He's in a battle for the win today. There's the number 4 of Smiley we've seen checking in with us also, and he's got his hands full in today's race back there in the number 4 spot. He keeps gaining ground and losing ground, as does this guy right here. Only thing is, Matt Smiley isn't losing positions quite like William Yoakley has on and off throughout the course of the race day today. There once again is Boric, and Boric has got some traffic between himself and second place rider now, the number 9 of Brandon Balance, and Boric is starting to stretch out that lead quite a bit now over the rest of the field. He's going to be tough to dethrone from that position now, as Bill Balance also caught in some of that lap traffic. Also the number 4 machine of Matt Smiley out there, but not caught in that lap traffic. That might be his saving grace. He might be able to reel in the number 1 of Bill Balance and challenge him for the number 3 position. Back there in the 5th place position, the number 2 once again of William Yoakley, another rider that might be able to gain an advantage by Bill Balance being wrapped up with those lap riders up there in that number 3 spot. There's the number 7 again of Chris Jinks, who's been at it all day long with William Yoakley for that 5th place position. They have bounced back and forth, like we said, all day long. Now at the 6.5 mile marker, this is just past the halfway point of lap number 4 now, and Boric will elect to go up the wall this time. And it looks like that wall is starting to be eaten up a little bit, and not as fast as it was, but still faster than going around the horn. So riders will probably be better off not to ride the ruts up, as the skid plates will drag on the ground if they get in those ruts. So they're going to try to straddle the ruts and create new lines up this section of the race course. As you've seen Bill Balance doing right there. There's Smiley as he is coming through the first of those 2 Twin Peaks over Twin Peak number 2 now. We head back out onto the race course. This is at about mile marker number 7 now, and look at the speed that Chris Boric has gotten back under control with out here a little farther down the race course. Again, it's amazing because of the way this track is whooping out and creating many doubles out there. These riders are actually doubling through sections of this race course rather than actually just putting the power to the ground and trying to get as much speed as possible. They've got to try to find a rhythm through this and the power all at the same time, and Boric appears to be doing so. So does Brandon Balance, and Bill Balance still holding in 3rd, but I got to say, again, I'm not real impressed with what's going on with Bill Balance, and I'm beginning to think that it might be a machine problem because Bill Balance appears to be healthy. He said he was healthy. It's got to be something going on with that machine. We'll get a report and find out what exactly is going on as quick as we can, but right now in the 4th place position, it is Matt Smiley holding on to 4th place. Back in 5th spot, it's the number 2 of William Yoakley, and he's got some lap traffic between him and that 4th place position now, but should be able to make do of that without much problem whatsoever. Reports coming in now from the balance pits, and of course they're telling us that Bill Balance has got a palmetto, a stick, something caught in the front suspension of his machine, which is causing it to not turn and also not react well to the bump. So Balance has got some problems, and that's why he's not pressing as hard as he normally would, and the way that we would think that the champ would be pressing, especially with the air of confidence that he had heading into today's race today. So that's what the problem is. Bill Balance just trying to overcome something in that front suspension. There's Chris Borch. Through this time, last time around, he was giving Brandon Balance a thumbs up, telling him, way to go, let's race this one, baby. This time, Brandon Balance is nowhere to be seen, as he is still in the hunt from that second place position, but he is way back there, and he is actually stopping to talk to some of those folks. He actually grabbed a drink of water, it looks like, getting himself a drink of water and taking off those goggles. So he's going to be goggleless as he gets back into the race. That closes that gap up now between he and his brother Bill. Bill on his way through. Let's see if he'll stop for the drink of water. He will stop for a drink. He fumbled it. He dropped the water. Bill Balance going for the drink, an ever vital part of this race, especially after having to fight that machine with the conditions he's having to fight it with the suspension being messed up in the front due to that stick stuck in the front. And Bill Balance has got a long way to go. He's going to only have to hope that those guys can catch him with that bottle of water in the pits or someplace else on the racetrack so he can get a drink and keep himself hydrated throughout the rest of this race. And there's not much of it left, ladies and gentlemen, as we near that Yamaha spectator section once again called the Yamaha Gator Pit. And again, Chris Borch leads him through this time around. No one in sight to challenge him for that #1 spot. Another beautiful view of Lake Winona over the shoulders of the riders there. And again, as you can see, a beautiful setting for a GNCC race. Their second place rider, Brandon Balance, now aboard the #9 machine, mastering the Gator Pit. Back on board with the Yamaha Rhino Cam now. And this one looks like it's going to be with Brandon Balance as we take a ride with him now. And also, let's check in with Jason Wygant to find out what's going on here late in the race.
All right, this is the last lap, and this is where the track gets worse. The whoops get deeper, the logs in the Gator Pit behind us, it gets more and more dug out. But there's one rider not worried about any of that. Chris Borch is way out front. The real battle behind him. The Balance Boys trying to put both brothers on the podium, and Max Smiley on that factory Polaris closing in strong in fourth. And Bill Balance has some problems. He's got a stick stuck in his frame, also had to stop for water, maybe suffering from some dehydration. So it's going to be a war for that last podium spot, and we've only got one lap to settle it.
And of course, this could be to nobody's favor more than Matt Smiley's right now. The disadvantages and the misfortunes of Bill Balance right now, as Matt Smiley is going to try to capitalize on that. And as you heard Jason talking there, Balance does have a stick stuck in the frame there, that front suspension that is causing the machine not to steer well and the suspension not to react as well also. Back out in that #3 spot. There's the #1 of Balance. Speak of the devil, as he wraps up lap #4 now. Should be getting that white flag here and heading into the 5th and final lap of racing. Bill Balance in 3rd place and 4th place, and it looks like closing that gap once again. The #4 of Matt Smiley checking in at the finish line region. There's 5th place rider #2, William Yoakley. You got to wonder if he's going to be able to reel in Smiley and or Bill Balance here in this last lap of racing. These riders obviously, I'm sure, saving a little bit of energy for this last lap. And, well, Yoakley, I'm sure, expended a lot of that earlier, but he's been down here riding in the sands of Florida for the last couple of weeks. Actually wore one of his machines out and looks like maybe himself dried himself out as he's getting himself a quick shot of water. William appears to be in not a big hurry, but always seems to be making up time. I guess if you approach it with that attitude, things come a little easier and you don't have to feel as much pressure. And one rider feeling a lot of pressure as he's over on the side trying to work his way through those last few turns before the finish line region. There's Chris Jinks once again as he is trying to stay as honest as possible through this top 10. It's tough to do late in the race. You can see is starting to wear out. Back over on pit row, will Borch elect to stop one more time as he's pitted a little early today, but will not pit on this last lap of racing. He's going to try to go for it, try to make it all stretch out. Brandon Balance also not having to pit as he pitted on lap number 3. There's not as much concern there for the number 9 or this number 1 machine of Bill Balance, who both pitted on lap number 3. Borge pitted on lap number 2. A little early. It could be to his advantage. It could be to his disadvantage because he was able to stretch that lead out and gain some ground out there on the rest of the field early in the race, which gave him an air of confidence, a boost of confidence, if you will, and also some momentum. And speaking of momentum, there's momentum, and again, that that rhythm section that used to be a flat road down through there is definitely telling us tales of what the Sands of Florida has to offer these riders. And as we saw those blisters on Stephanie Parton there a little bit ago with Jason Whitecant, I'm sure that even some of these pro riders are experiencing just exactly the same, especially if they didn't get their hands taped up well enough before the start of the race. And you know, these guys know coming into this race what they are going to be faced with, so they try to prepare as much as possible. But even then, sometimes it doesn't work, as we saw William Yoakley having to exchange gloves there about halfway through the race. So though your strategy may be and you know what you've got to do, sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. And as hard as some of these guys are riding, I'm sure that they're ripping the skin right off the palms of those hands, especially if they get sand in those gloves. There's Yoakley, the guy we were talking about that had to change gloves there just a moment ago. Doesn't appear to be attacking this section too awfully hard, trying to ride smart and conserve energy. And you think right now would be the time that he would be on the gas, but maybe William has another plan here in the final lap of racing at the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC, round number 2 of America's Series, the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. There's the number 3 again of Chris Borich as we are at the 3-mile marker now, going over the road crossing, and Borich with a more phenomenally this time around than the last time over Brandon Balance, the number 9 machine, who seems to be steadily losing ground on the first place rider. Back to the number 3 spot. Again, Balance with the problems with the machine. Whether or not that's going to help Matt Smiley and William Yoakley out or not remains to be answered, and that there is Matt Smiley now aboard that number 4 machine, and it does help him. He takes over the number 3 spot as Bill Balance is now dropped off to 4th, and it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up on him. And that series championship looks like it's so far away here in that second round that he's down 1 race and now several positions, as he is going to be losing more and more time, I would imagine, throughout the course of this race. And this guy right here is going to try his best to capitalize on that. William Yoakley is closing the gap as Matt Smiley is now your 3rd place rider out there. So Chris Borich, your leader, Brandon Balance running in 2nd, Matt Smiley in 3rd, and of course it is again in 4th place position Bill Balance, 5th spot the number 2 of William Yoakley. So we get one more look there at the number 3 of Chris Borich as he makes his way by. Brandon Balance also making his way by in that number 2 spot, still several seconds down as Borich is continuing to walk away with this one. Back in 3rd place, the number 4 of Matt Smiley, as he is continuing to try to work his way towards the other Balance boy there. And 2nd place, as he has got the gas on and in the hunt.
I got number 1 now.
There's the number 1 of Bill Balance, back in 4th now. There's Yoakley closing that gap on the number 1 of Bill Balance here late in the race. Back out front with our leaders now in some lap traffic. Chris Borich is able to get around with no problems. You got to wonder, though, is that the case all the way around this race course? That time he got around in that open section there, but is that what's happening throughout the rest of this near 11-mile racetrack? There's Brandon Balance as he is contending with his own lap traffic now. And also not only the lap traffic, but the track itself is starting to take its toll on him. And you can tell that his suspension is working. For if it weren't, he would obviously be bucked off that machine as hard as he is hitting those whoops down through that field. Here comes Matt Smiley. How hard is he going to be charging here as he looks for the smoother of the lines and finds them? And that'll help him gain a little bit of time on that 2nd place ride of Brandon Balance now as he appears to maybe be in the hunt for second place. Chris Borch a little far out of his reach right now, and this guy right here has got to be so disappointed in the way that his race day is shaping up now. All the way back to fourth place, and I'm sure that William Yoakley is closing in hard and fast and is going to be challenging. There he is. Only that straightaway between that section there and the wood section is what separates them as far as time. At the speed that William Yoakley is going in comparison to the speed that Bill Balance was going, he should be able to catch him before laps end and the checker flag. Out of the checkpoint, this is checkpoint number 2. Our first and only look so far today at this checkpoint. Well, it looks like it's going to be the only look considering this is the last lap of racing. But Chris Borch is kind of like in cruise mode now, as Brandon Balance is still trying to play catch-up. But even in cruise mode, Chris Borch has got enough of a lead that it's going to take quite a bit for Brandon Balance to reel him in and make any one of a challenge whatsoever. There's the number 4 of Matt Smiley. Looks like he is trying to figure out the racetrack also, and maybe starting to wear down here late in the race also. But who knows? Those questions remain to be answered as we hit that Yamaha Gator pit one more time. At the fans urging, will he try it? No, he will not. Plays it smart one more time and the last time through. And again, at the disappointment of a lot of race fans hanging out there at that Yamaha Gator pit. Here comes the Yamaha. That is Brandon Balance once again, your second place ride. And been one of the contenders all day long. A very strong race by that number 9 of Brandon Balance. He has got a lot to be proud of and a lot to look forward to here in this 2005 season. Matt Smiley the same. Another strong race, second race only on that Polaris. And, of course, it appears to be working out quite well for him as he has struggled all day long, made it up into that fourth place position, and now into the number 3 spot, and has been a contender all day long. Don't count Smiley out of any race anytime you see him on the racetrack on that Polaris. You would think on a new machine things would be a little tougher for him, but that is not the case. Obviously, it suits him to a T. Back out front with our leaders, Borch, Balance. You see them making their way around and again motoring their way toward this time Checkers at that finish line checkpoint. Third place still Matt Smiley. In the closing few miles of this Orange Crush GNCC, brought to you by your friends at Moose Racing, the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC. Again, round number 2 of the 2005 Suzuki Grand National Cross Country Championship Series. There goes Bill Balance once again doing all that he can to hang on to 4th, working his way through the lap traffic from 5th spot, and got him in his sights right now, the number 2 of William Yoakley. Still plenty of time to go here before we reach that finish line. And, of course, speaking of finish lines, check it out. You can tell that we're at the finish line, and Chris Borch makes it 2 in a row and wins the Moose Racing Orange Crush GNCC. And this guy has got to be extremely happy because not only does he win 2 in a row, but he has now got a phenomenal points lead, especially with Bill Balance and the problems that he has suffered here today at the Orange Crush GNCC. Let's head down with Jason Wygant to get a word with Chris on today's race.
Chris Borch, 2 in a row, the roughest track of the year, and you pulled away in the last lap. What's going on?
I had a little problem at the last lap. I don't know if I was running out of fuel or was starting to overheat. Shut off on me. I was probably in the woods like 30 seconds. I thought it was over for me, but I got back on and hammered down.
You got luck on your side this year. Obviously, you're in shape. Are you tired at all?
I'm a little sore. I'm really hot, and yeah, I'm tired.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, Kid Quad puts one more together. 2 races in a row and a big dry spell for the champ, Bill Balance, who has not won a race since the Wisp before the summer break in 2004. He won the championship last year, but still has not won an actual race since the Wisp. But I'm sure it's not going to be long before Balance puts one together. just a few misfortunes today takes him out of the running for a podium position finish. And it looks like Brandon Balance will finish second. His best finish here since, well, his win 2 years ago over in Palatka. Matt Smiley will put that Polaris on the podium for the first time in history. A Polaris makes it to the podium here at the GNCCs. Yoakley comes around in that number 4 spot, as it looks like he got around Bill Balance as well. As we check that Suzuki winners board, Chris Borch takes the win, Brandon Balance second, Matt Smiley third, William Yoakley fourth, and there is Bill Balance rounding out your top 5. Tough break for the champ. 6th through 10th now. It looks like Michael Houston will take 6th. Chris Jinks in 7th. Santo DeRisi holds on for 8th. Andrus Lagson's in 9th. And 10th place, Todd Nippenberg aboard the number 13 machine. And there, ladies and gentlemen, your Orange Crush GNCC champions, Chris Borch, Brandon Balance, and Matt Smiley. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you your 2005 Orange Crush GNCC champions. And of course, as the riders celebrate on the podium, let's head on down to the podium ourselves and talk with the winners.
Welcome to the Sunshine State, and Brandon Balance, the younger brother of our champ Bill Balance. When we come to Florida, you come to race.
Yeah, I like this weather. It's hot down here. Bill and I both like it. Unfortunately, he didn't get to make it up here today. I don't know, he must have some problems. But it was a long, tough race, and the endurance paid off, and the time in the gym and my training, it all paid off, and I'm happy to be up here.
Let's take us through this off season. How much training, how hard have you been working preparing for this race?
Oh, it's 5-6 days a week for about 2 or 3 hours each time I go in. So that and riding twice a week, you know, you can't beat the going out and practicing on your bike and getting the feel of it, and it just helps all around everywhere.
I know a couple years ago we had a swamp race down here in Florida, and you won it. Today it was dry. Take us through today's race.
Today was definitely dry. You throw it dry out within 10 minutes after drinking a bunch of water. So there, I even pitted on the 4th lap there. Had my pit guys out there standing on part of the track with some water bottle, and I had to stop. I guess I lost maybe 20-30 seconds just to get that in my throat and get me be able to breathe again. And the hot weather, the dryness, and the rough track just whooped out, whoop after whoop everywhere. It all. It's physically draining.
Now you've got to know, if you can survive a race like this, you've got to be able to survive the rest of the series. You're in good shape for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait till Georgia to roll around. Georgia's a tough track, but it's going to be a fun track. You got the motocross track. It's going to be fun for the fans to watch, and it's going to be real exciting. And just we'll see if I can make it up here again. Maybe even up a spot.
All right, well, we'll see you then in Georgia. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you very much, man.
Mighty Matt Smiley, bad luck in Texas, a bad start, but today in Florida, you proved that you are serious about a championship this year.
Yeah, I'm serious about it this year, and this Polaris Predator is working great for me. I mean, I knew I had something for him last race, but you know, circumstance kind of took me out of that race a little bit. But yeah, I pushed hard here today, and you know, my Predator was working great, my axis shocks, just soaking all this stuff up, and I was just pushing as hard as I could here today, and you know, I'm real happy to get up here on the podium. And it's not going to be the last time you see me up here.
You know, you're living up to your name today. Sometimes you see after these races, it looks like you're beat, you're spent, but you're pumped to be up here. You're excited about the rest of the year and working with the new team.
Yeah, like I said, you know, not a lot of people take this Polaris seriously, but I think they're going to be changing their mind pretty soon.
Take us through the race today. You had to come make a couple passes late in the race. How'd that happen?
Pushed okay, and it was the roughest track I've ever.
You know, I just wanted to keep in touch with the leaders in the beginning. I knew it was going to be a long, tough training race, and you know, I kept them in touch with me early. At one point, they got away a little bit, but I knew something would happen if you know I just kept up the good steady pace and had something left for the end.
We're just getting
I was able to catch Bill towards the end of the race and get by him in a third position, and you know, I just kept driving from there. I didn't try to get out of control and crash. Just tried to stay smooth and got myself up here on the podium.
All right, we'll see you in Georgia. Good luck the rest of the year, Matt.
Thank you.
God, okay.